All right, so this customer had a noise complaint from the furnace. When the inducer motor kicked on, it seemed to work okay. No real odd sounds or anything. I do want to say that the flames kind of kicked on pretty loud, and I'll do a full video or I'll do a small recording of that as well to include in this one. But then she said when the blower motor kicked on, it was initially okay, but then it would vibrate loud enough to where in the room behind is a laundry room, you could hear it. Initially I thought maybe it was some gaps in the venting or anything. It is old galvanized ductwork. It does still have the cross bracing, so it's probably within the last 10 years or so, which makes sense because this furnace is from 2014. However, I'm still thinking that it might be a motor. Now, I checked the motor, I checked the visuals of it and everything, and there's no oil residue or buildup or anything up front. The back seems to be okay. It's not super hot. It does blow air. It's just a noise concern. However, I did want to show you this. All right, so I'm gonna do it on this side because it's easier to see, but I'm gonna spin the motor, right? You can see it moving. Watch how it just suddenly stops, right? There's no, and I'm not stopping it, I promise. But see, notice how it stops. For any of those that are HVAC techs, you understand that this is a sign, or at least a visual, that that motor's going out. Now, clearly there is a capacitor that needs to be checked. It is a 7.5 MFD plus or minus the 6%. I've heard a lot of people say that there's like an industry standard that no more than 10%. I don't really like that, because if this capacitor is being used outside of its tolerance range for too long, it can cause issues to the motor to where the motor can start destroying itself from the inside out. So if you're outside of that range, depending on the percentage, so if you're like, if it's 7.5 minus 6% and you're like 0.02 MFD outside of that 6%, I wouldn't worry about it. But if you're like substantially out, then yeah, we have to replace it. The one downside about this situation is I do have a universal that can fit in this, and this also looks like it's a universal to begin with, and that it's been replaced in the past. So I have to check, actually, we got the wiring diagram right there, and I'm using you guys. It says 7.5. So it's the correct capacitor for the correct motor. The only downside is that if this is a universal motor, which does look like it, but I could be wrong, is that it's been replaced before, which means why has it been replaced? And then the further question is, was the capacitor replaced with this motor, or did they keep the 7.5 in? That I can't